Hello everyone. So, welcome to this video. This is the review video for sessions 1 and 2. And so, in this video, we're going to talk about everything that we learned in session 1, which was the holidays, symbols, and maps. And then session 2, which was that big long video about early American history. And so, make sure you watch this video and review all the material here before you move on to the video for session 3. And so the way that this video works is there's going to be a fill in the blanks worksheet that I want you guys to use with this. Uh, but first up in our review, we actually have a matching activity. And I'm going to turn off my camera for this part. And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to get this piece of paper out in front of you. You should have it in the material that you were provided. And so excuse me, each one of these words in this box up here matches one of the pictures over here. And so what I want you guys to do is match the correct word to its picture. And so I'll do one with you now so you can see what I mean. So the first word is tree. And so now we look to see which one of these matches the word tree. And we see that it's this one right here. This is a picture of a tree. And so we then would write tree under the picture like this. And so now I want you guys to take some time and do this for the rest of the words and the pictures. All right, so pause if you need a little bit more time, but I'm going to move along anyways for the sake of the video. So let's go over the correct answers. So we can see that this first picture here, this is the White House. The next picture is showing the compass. And remember, we talked about how N stands for north and north means up. And you can see that N and north. The next picture, this is a picture of the United States. This picture here, this is a picture of a specific United States. This is the state of California. This picture, it says, July 4th, and we're celebrating. And so we're celebrating Independence Day. The next picture down here, this is a picture of George Washington. And if you remember, we called him the father of our country. This picture here, this is a picture of a dollar bill. This here is the American flag. Here, this should be recognizable to you. We currently live in Iowa, and so this is a picture of Iowa. We already did tree together as a group, so you should be sure to have this one correct. And then this final picture shows President Lincoln, who we're going to learn about in a different session. So make sure that what you wrote is the same as what I have on screen. Go ahead and take some time to make sure that our answers match. Okay, so now I want you to take out your session 2 homework that you should have completed. And I want us to review the writing portion together. So these were the 5 sentences that I had you guys write out and practice saying. And so I wrote these sentences out too. So I'm going to turn my camera on so you can see how I wrote. And so you can see, maybe, there we go, that, I wrote it out each one twice, and I wrote them out, very neatly so that you can read each and every sentence. And so yours should look like this as well. You should make sure that when you read them, that other people can read them and they're not just legible to you and you only. And so I'm going to turn my camera off again now. And so now I want us to practice reading these sentences together. So I'll read a sentence and then I want you guys to repeat after me. Okay? So, sentence 1, I will read, I want to be an American citizen. And now you repeat. I say sentence 2. The colors of the flag are red, white, and blue. And now you repeat. Sentence 3. The White House is in Washington, D.C. Number 4. President's Day is in February. And finally, sentence number 5. Labor Day is in September. All right, good. And so now that our homework review is out of the way, we're going to move on to reviewing what we learned in session 1. So in front of you now, you should have the pages that say fill in the blanks worksheet for session 1 and 2 review. And I'll turn on my camera so you can see what that looks like. So you can see up here, fill in the blanks worksheet for session 1 and 2. And then you can see we have some sentences with some blanks. And there are 2 pages of that. And so what I want you guys to do for this section is I want you guys to follow along with the information that I put on the screen and what I say, and I want you guys to fill in the blanks as we go. All right, so I'm going to turn my camera off again. And so we're going to start with the information that we learned in session 1. So the first thing we talked about in session 1 was national symbols, which is section A of your worksheet. When we talked about symbols, we learned that the Statue of Liberty is located on Liberty Island in New York. We also talked about the American flag and how on the flag the stripes represent the original colonies and the stars represent the states. The next thing we talked about was a little bit of geography and a little bit of maps, which is section B on your fill in the blank worksheet. We learned about the country's borders and how Washington is a state that borders Canada and Texas is a state that borders Mexico. We talked about the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers, which we learned are some of the longest rivers in the United States. And finally, we talked about the oceans and how the Pacific Ocean is on the west coast of the United States and how the Atlantic Ocean is on the east coast of the United States. Finally, the last thing we talked about in session 1 was holidays, which is section C on your worksheet. We learned that Independence Day is celebrated every year on July 4th. We also learned about other federal holidays, including Thanksgiving and Christmas. Christmas is celebrated in December, while in November, we celebrate Thanksgiving. Okay, so that covers everything that we learned in session 1. So now it's time to review what we learned in session 2. And so all of session 2 covered early United States history. And so everything we talk about from now on will be on section D on your fill in the blanks worksheet. Okay? So, first up, we talked about how the country got its start and how New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware are just 3 of the 13 original colonies. We then learned how Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. And then we also learned how the first president of the United States was George Washington. We then moved on to the Constitution, which is rather important. So, the Constitution is the supreme law of our land, meaning that we must obey the Constitution and everything that is in it. The Constitution has many amendments, or additions, or changes to it as well. There are 27 of these amendments to be exact. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. These are rights that every single person living in America has, whether they are a citizen or not. We also spent some time learning about the First Amendment, which contains 5 important freedoms. And so we remembered the acronym PAPERS is used to remember the freedoms in the First Amendment. Those freedoms are press, which is the first P, assembly, which is the A, petition, which is the P, religion, which is the R, and speech, which is S. And together, that spells papers, PAPRS. And finally, we talked about a very important foundation that the United States is built on, and that's the rule of law. And so, what rule of law means, no one is above the law. And that is the main idea of the foundation of rule of law. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some of the questions that are in each section. And I'll give you guys some time to fill in the blanks or the answers if you haven't already. So, first up, we have section A. So, question 1, the blank is located on Liberty Island in New York. And question 2, on the United States flag, the blank represent the original colonies and the blank represent the states. Go ahead and fill in those questions if you don't have them answered already. All right, moving on to section B. So the first question, Washington is a state that borders blank. Texas is a state that borders blank. The Mississippi River is one of the blank rivers in the United States. Question 4. The blank ocean is to the west of the United States, and the blank ocean is to the east. So go ahead and answer those questions now if you don't already have them done. Section C. So question 1 says Independence Day is celebrated every year on blank. Question 2, in November, we celebrate blank. And finally, we're going to move on to section D. So, the first in section D, New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware were 3 of the 13 blank. Number 2, blank wrote the Declaration of Independence. Number 3, the first president of the United States was blank. Question 4, the blank is the supreme law of the land? Question 5. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are called the blank. Question 6. The acronym PAPERS is used to remember the freedoms contained in the blank. Those freedoms are press, assembly, petition, religion, and speech. And finally, question 7. No one is above the law is the main idea behind the foundation of blank. All right, so now let's go over the answers to the fill in the blanks worksheet to make sure that you know the answers and you are prepared to move on to session 3. So we have section A first. Question 1 asks, the blank is located on Liberty Island in New York. So the Statue of Liberty is located on Liberty Island in New York. Question 2. On the United States flag, the stripes represent the original colonies and the stars represent the states. Section B. Washington is a state that borders Canada. Number 2. Texas is a state that borders Mexico. Number 3. The Mississippi River is one of the longest rivers in the United States. Number 4. The Pacific Ocean is to the west of the United States, and the Atlantic Ocean is to the east. Section C. Independence Day is celebrated each year on July 4th. Question 2. In November, we celebrate Thanksgiving. And Section D. New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware were 3 of the 13 original colonies. Number 2. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. Number 3. The first president of the United States was George Washington. Number 4. The Constitution is the supreme law of our land. Number 5. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. Number 6. The acronym PAPERS is used to remember the freedoms contained in the First Amendment. And finally, number 7. No one is above the law is the main idea behind the foundation of rule of law. So these are the correct answers, the answers that I have on screen. So go ahead and fill those in, compare those to what you have, make sure they're the right answers because they will help you in your studying. All right, everyone. So that's the end of this review video. So once you feel confident with this video and the information contained in sessions 1 and 2, you can go ahead and move on into session 3. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all soon in the video for session 3.